Jeffrey Dahmer committed his first murder when he lived in Bath, Ohio. In June 1978, Jeff was driving down the road when he saw Stephen Hicks hitchhiking to a concert. Jeff convinced him to come back to his house first for drinks. When Stephen said he needed to leave, Jeff attacked him with a barbell. He beat Stephen to death, making him his first victim. Jeff failed out of college and was discharged from the Army due to heavy drinking. In 1981, his father Lionel was frustrated with him, so he sent him here to live with his grandmother in the Milwaukee suburb of West Allis. Catherine was a Christian and pretty strict, so Lionel was hoping that she would put Jeff straight, but eventually he gave in to his urges, started going out to gay clubs and bathhouses, meeting men and bringing them back home. In 1987, Jeff met Steve Tuomi at Club 219 in downtown Milwaukee. Jeff took him to the Ambassador Hotel and they went up to room 507. He beat Steve to death. The next morning, Jeff bought a large suitcase, put Steve's body in it, and walked out through the lobby with Steve's body in the suitcase. Jeff committed his next two murders in his grandma's basement in 1988. On January 16th, he murdered James Dockstader, who was just 14. On March 2nd, he killed Richard Guerrero. On April 2nd, 1988, Jeff brought Ronald Flowers Jr. back to his grandma's house, planning to kill him, but his grandma saw Ronald, so Jeff didn't go through with it. In September 1988, Jeff's grandma was over his drinking and him bringing men back to the house, so she kicked him out. Jeff moved into this apartment at 808 North 24th Street. He only lived here for a few months. Just days after moving in, Jeff brought a 13-year-old back to his apartment, drugged, and sexually assaulted him. The boy survived, and Jeff was arrested. He pleaded guilty to second-degree sexual assault. He moved back in with his grandmother while he waited for sentencing. On March 25, 1989, Jeff brought Anthony Sears back to his grandma's house and killed him in the basement. Jeff was very attracted to Anthony, so he decided to keep Anthony's head and other body parts. In May 1989, Jeff was sentenced for sexually assaulting the minor and received only 1 year in jail. He was let out after only 10 months. After Jeff was released from prison, he moved into an apartment building that used to be right here at 924 North 25th Street. Jeff settled into apartment 213. The building was torn down in 1992 and nothing has been built in its place. It sounds like there was some talk of doing some kind of a memorial or turning it into a children's park. This is where Jeff committed most of his murders. He would invite men back to his apartment, drug them, kill them, dismember their bodies, and do other things. This is where the back entrance to the apartment was. And it's where the very famous images were taken of the men wearing hazmat suits, wheeling out the big blue barrel that had body parts in it. Just a week after moving into the Oxford apartments, Jeff killed Raymond Smith on May 20, 1990. His other murders that year were Edward Smith on June 14th, Ernest Miller on September 2nd, and David Thomas on September 24th. In 1991, Jeff killed Curtis Strotter on February 18th. He killed Errol Lindsay on April 7th. He killed Tony Hughes on May 24th. Tony was deaf and mute, which makes his murder even more heartbreaking. On May 27, 1991, Jeff killed his most well-known victim, 14-year-old Conorak Synthesomphone. He saw Conorak outside the Grand Avenue Mall and brought him back to his apartment. Jeff drugged him, then drilled a hole in his head and poured acid in it. Conorak passed out and Jeff left to go buy more beer. Conorak partially came to and stumbled out of the apartment and onto the street, naked and drugged. He stumbled down to the corner of 25th and State, and 2 women found him. They could tell he was drugged, he was naked, there was something wrong, so they called 911. And if you're familiar with the story, you know that when the cops showed up, they didn't do anything. They didn't think anything was wrong, even though there was a naked 14-year-old boy standing in front of them drugged. When Jeff arrived back at the apartment, he told the police Conorak was his boyfriend, and the cops believed him. They actually helped Jeff bring Conorak back into his apartment. What's worse is that Tony Hugh's body was still lying in Jeff's bedroom and the cops noticed nothing. Within 30 minutes of the cop leaving, Jeff killed Conorak. It's definitely one of the most frustrating parts of the case. And ironically, Conorak is the brother of the boy that Jeff essayed in 1988. On June 30th, Jeff killed Matt Turner. On July 5th, he killed Jeremiah Weinberger. On July 15th, he killed Oliver Lacey. On July 19th, Jeff killed his final victim, Joseph Bredehoft. On July 22nd, Jeff brought Tracy Edwards back to his apartment, planning to kill him, but Tracy escaped and ran out onto the street and flagged down cops. These cops actually noticed something was off with Jeff, and his horrid deeds were finally caught. This is a Columbia Correctional Institution. When Jeff was found guilty, he was sentenced to life in prison and sent here in February 1992. He was kept in solitary confinement for the first year that he was here for his safety, just because he was such a high-profile inmate, but then he requested to be moved to general population. On November 28th, 1994, Jeff was cleaning the prison gym with two other inmates, Jesse Anderson and Christopher Scarver. A guard left them alone and Christopher attacked both of them and killed both of them. Christopher beat Jeffrey to death with a barbell, which is kind of ironic because that was how Jeff killed his first victim, Stephen Hicks. Christopher Scarver was a schizophrenic and he said that God told him to kill. He had 2 additional life sentences added to his time. Something that's unique about Jeff compared to other serial killers is that he didn't blame anybody else for his actions. He didn't blame it on a bad childhood. He didn't say voices told him to kill. He took full responsibility for it. So it seemed like he was just kind of submitting to whatever punishment would come his way. I think that's why he requested to be let out of solitary confinement. Christopher said that when he beat Jeff, Jeff didn't yell or scream or make any noise. Jeffrey Dahmer was cremated and his ashes were given to his parents.